very good morning to you. Welcome to KTN Midmorning. My name is Koi. Now, a lot of us enjoy a good cup of coffee, but to be honest, a really good cup of coffee depends on the machinery, which is why so many of us prefer to go out where you can have a cafe with big, shiny materials and a barista who knows exactly what they're doing. And a place which you can go to enjoy great coffee just like that is the Black Gold Cafe, and it's next on Midmorning Lifestyle.
For over 1,000 years, humankind has been perfecting the art of making and drinking coffee. The magical coffee bean has become both an addictive necessity and a welcome treat. We head over to the Black Gold restaurant and speak to Maina, an expert in the art of coffee making.
I've been making coffee for around 7 years from famous coffee shops around the country, and currently now I'm in Black Gold. A good brew depends on various things. One, the type of coffee that you have. We have different types of coffees. From Suprema, we have Kenya AA, which is regarded as the Kenyan finest coffee and the best kind of quality coffee that you can have. And it's also the best because that's what we export as a country. It also depends on how you store your coffee. Coffee doesn't need to get in contact with water. And we can simply say coffee is delicate, depending on how you handle it.
In Kenya, coffee has been grown since 1893 when it was first introduced into the country. The coffee beans, after milling, are graded mechanically into various grades which differ in size, weight, or shape. The grading system differs in different countries depending on the size of the beans, also known as screen size. In Kenya, we have Grade E, which is the largest in size and is above 18 millimeters. Grade AA, which refers to a specific, larger than normal bean size and is 17 to 18 millimeters in diameter. Grade AA usually fetches a higher price than any other grade. Grade AB, which is a combination of two grades, A and B, and is 15 to 16 millimeters in diameter. Grade PB, which usually grows as one bean in a single cherry bean and also lies in the 15 to 16 millimeters diameter range. About 10% of coffee falls in this grade. Grade C is comprised of smaller beans than B and is 12 to 14 millimeters in diameter. Grade T is comprised of the smallest and thinnest beans. It is below 12 millimeters in diameter. Grading and classification is usually based on altitude, botanical variety, preparation process, bean size, number of defects, roast appearance, density of beans, and sometimes also bean shape and color. Coffee is prepared in a variety of ways, and most coffee shops narrow down the methods to suit their clientele needs.
This is a coffee filter machine, and through the coffee filter machine we're going to learn how we can make drip coffee, which is coffee that you can easily make at home if you have a coffee filter machine. First we have what we call the filter paper. With the filter paper, this is where you put your coffee, and this is where you put the amount of coffee that you think you require as a person, and depending on the strength that you want to have in your cup of coffee. So you take the filter cup, put it in the filter paper, drop it into the machine, and then you pour cold water, and you should always make sure that the water you pour is cold, and then you simply put on the machine. It's called the drip method of making coffee. So after some time you'll see the coffee dripping, and hence getting the name the drip coffee method. The drip method takes at around 4 minutes for the coffee to brew inside, and then after the 4 minutes, the coffee will start dripping by its own. And it's easily made at home, and one can easily make it. And this is where you make when you think you're in a hurry. This is like a quick cup of coffee. And after 5 minutes, this is what we have. You just take the coffee, pour it in a cup, and it's good to go. Then you return the machine back to the heater, and you have a good cup of coffee for the day.
The major benefit of using the drip method is being able to brew large amounts of coffee at one time.
This is a press pot, also known as a plunger. And with this press pot, it's easily available from the supermarkets to most coffee shops around. And it's the most and easiest way of making a quick cup of coffee on your way to work or to the office. What you ought to do is put in the amount of coffee that you require, depending on how strong you want your coffee to be, and then simply add hot water. With this doesn't matter. You can always put hot water, and then with the hot water, it automatically brews the coffee. The coffee keeps brewing on hot water. But the difference between this and the drip method is that this, when you pour hot water, all you need to do is drink immediately, because it will always get cold. Once you pour your coffee, you press down the plunger till the bottom. So you just pour in a cup, and you're good to go. A great cup of coffee.
The plunger or French press method helps maximize the flavor output of the coffee. This method closely resembles cupping coffee.
In order for you to make a cup of espresso, there's some basic things that you need. One is a grinder. The other is a portafilter, which is what I'm holding. We have the beans, and then when you put on, this grinds the beans to get a powder form, to make the beans in a powder form. And this is what you get. Here you go. Then you squeeze it. So what you need is an espresso machine. What you need, you drain the water that's left on the espresso machine. By draining the water, this removes any particles that are on the sieve or on the base of the machine. And then you put the portafilter, and then put the machine on, and then place your cup. And after like 60 seconds, the coffee will start dripping out. And the coffee, the drip that we have here is a honey flow, the kind of honey flow. And after 10 seconds of dripping, this is your espresso cup. And for the espresso, if you want to know a good cup of espresso, you have to see what we call the tiger marks. The tiger mark is the golden brown layer that we see on top of the cup. And this signifies the quality of the espresso. If you want the coffee to kickstart your day, espresso is the strongest coffee, so it's believed it brightens your day and keeps your brain kicking.
Other methods of preparing coffee include Chimay brewing method. Thickness of the filter and slower brew time allows for a greater margin of error, while the one-piece design reduces spills and can be less intimidating to handle.
Step 1. Fold the Chemex paper in half, then in half again, and then fold out into a cone. Place the filter in the top of the Chemex and wash it out. Paper still tastes nasty. This also gives us a chance to warm the carafe. Step 2. Pour away the water from washing out the filter. Step 3. We're going to weigh out the beans with the scales. And depending on the size of your Chemex, use 60 grams per litre. But for this one, we're using a 6 cup, so we're going to use around about 30 grams of coffee. Step 4, grind to a coarse sand consistency, a little bit like we did with the AeroPress. Step 5, place the coffee in the filter paper. Step 6, sit the Chemex on top of the scales that you bought from the AeroPress video. Place around 60 grams of water at 90 to 95 degrees C and let the coffee bloom. And we're going to wait for about 30 to 45 seconds. Step 7, add around 200 millilitres of water, then steadily add the remaining 240 millilitres within 2 minutes from when you started. Once all the water is added, take a spoon and stir the brew. Step 8, your aim is to have all 500 ml pass through the filter within 2.5 to 3 minutes. Step 9, if it goes for longer than the 3 minutes, all is not lost. But if it goes to 4 minutes, abort, abort, abort. And next time, make sure that you coarsen up that grind so the water can flow a little bit easier. If it goes too quickly, you need to fine that grind. Step 10, pour that coffee and enjoy.
Cupping method. It is a professional practice but can be done informally by anyone or by professionals known as master tasters. A standard coffee cupping procedure involves deeply sniffing the coffee, then loudly slurping the coffee so it spreads to the back of the tongue to determine its quality.
No flavour is too ridiculous. If you perceive it, then it's there.
Now we're preparing a cappuccino, and as I said, for the cappuccino we also need the grinder and the portafilter. After which you start extracting. You need to drain the water. The reason why you drain the water is to remove any foreign particles or any coffee that is left on the sieve when you are removing a previous cup of coffee. After draining the water, then put the portafilter in and then extract your espresso, of which is the base of making the cappuccino. The cappuccino contains espresso, a little bit of milk and a lot of froth. For you to froth your milk, you need the coffee machine, which actually gives a steam. When you're frothing the milk, you need to get the hissing sound for you to know that you're doing the right thing, and then feel the temperature of the milk getting hot with your hands. When it starts burning, that's when you know that the milk is getting hot and it's ready for pouring. You come, you swirl. This is what we call swirling, for you to get a balanced froth. Then you can start pouring. Oh no. So you just put the chocolate sauce onto the coffee, depending on the pattern that you want and the design. And then you just make anything that you feel like. The pattern is to beautify the coffee. And you have your cappuccino with a web, chocolate web.
The cappuccino is the most popular espresso-based drink. The espresso and cappuccino are just two examples of coffee recipes. Other common ones include macchiato, meaning marked or stained in Italian, A macchiato is an espresso with a dash of milk or froth added to it to soften the flavor. Long black. It is usually made by topping up a single or double shot of espresso coffee with 2/3 cup of hot water. Caffè latte. In Italian, the name literally means milk coffee, and like the very similar cappuccino, the latte is an espresso shot with steamed milk added. Flat white. To make a flat white, simply top up an espresso with steamed milk, ensuring just the milk is added instead of the foam. Americano. This is a type of coffee created by adding hot water to an espresso. Café au lait. This is simply coffee and hot milk added. Mocha. It is similar to the cafe latte but with dark or milk chocolate.
Most guests that come to Black Gold prefer mocha. The reason why they prefer the mocha is because, for one, mocha is not so strong because it contains a shot of espresso, a lot of milk, little froth, and chocolate. And also on top of the most common coffees that are found in most coffee shops, we also have the boozy coffees. We have the Amarula and we have the coffee liqueurs.
Caffeine is found in a variety of drinks including sodas, energy drinks, and coffee.
Decaffeinated coffee is 100% caffeine free. For the decaffeinated coffee, actually, one thing that will be surprising enough to know is that we only have the decaffeination done in Germany. So coffee from here is exported to Germany in bean form, and then that's where decaffeination is done. We don't have a place that does decaffeination here, and then exported back after decaffeination. That's very true. Coffee can never be stored in the fridge. Coffee needs an airtight container and in a cool, dry place. For the lovers of coffee, yes, I can say coffee is a little bit addictive, but that depends though if you like the cup of coffee that you get on the table. And the first impression of coffee really matters. Because if your first experience is breathtaking, then absolutely you can get hooked up to coffee, especially the caffeine. And we have some people actually who can't even start the day without having a cup of coffee because they actually have their headaches, feel a little bit weak, but once they have a cup of coffee, they're good to go. Depending on the type of coffee you're taking and also the ingredients on the type of coffee that you're taking. For example, we have a cup of mocha, and in the mocha we have we have milk, we have chocolate, and also you can get a customer requesting for whipped cream, and on top of whipped cream we have different flavored syrups. To some point that's true, especially if you're a coffee lover. Coffee, after a cup of coffee, a good cup of coffee, you get revitalized, if I may say, and you get the adrenaline of the body going. Yes, that's very true. Coffee can get you mentally alert, especially when you're at a place, especially a shot of espresso, to be precise. That can get you very alert. That's very true. depending on how we have different degrees on the way we roast coffee. From the bean, actually, most people don't actually know that when you're buying the coffee bean in an auction, it's actually green in color. So after the roasting, this is what darkens the coffee and gives you the black beans that people see in coffee shops. So the darker the roast, the stronger the coffee. The accompaniments we serve coffee with, we have the most common cakes, like the Black Forest, White Forest. We have Opera Mint and the Opera Mocha. We also have pancakes, not just any pancakes, but the pancakes that we serve at Black Gold are, I can say, are finger-licking good. Apart from making a good cup of coffee, coffee can be used elsewhere. We can use coffee for making pasta. We can use coffee as a liqueur for making boozy coffees. We can also use coffee to make milkshakes. There's the most famous espresso milkshake. If you want to make a good cup of coffee, rather than the basic cream and sugar, you can add chocolate to coffee. Depending on what you have, you can use drinking chocolate, for example, at home, because it contains sugar in it. There is sugar in the drinking chocolate, so you can use the drinking chocolate. When you're handling coffee, some things you need to remember is always store your coffee, after opening the coffee, store your coffee in an airtight container. Always store the coffee in a cool, dry place. Where you store your coffee and the machines that you're using to make coffee with, you should always remember to clean them daily, on a daily basis, to get a good quality cup of coffee and to get the aroma and the texture of coffee, the good top-notch quality coffee. Well, the operating hours for Black Gold are from 7 in the morning to 11 at night, but the vision and the mission of opening Black Gold is to make it a 24-hour coffee shop. The reason why I specialize in coffee is an art. And once you get to understand more about coffee rather than what you get on the cup, it gets more intriguing. The idea of wanting to know more than what's in the cup is what pushed me, so that I can know the methodologies of making coffee and how we mix the coffee. And that brought in to me a passion, because I believe the feeling and the taste of coffee, it's like an expedition in your mouth.
Eve Sisters is all about inspiration and motivation. And we get some of that up next on the Eve Sisters segment.
But whenever we were here and we closed, I always had a job. This is why you must intern. I always had a job. We had a closure within being here 4 months because the A-levelers threw stones, so we were sent home. Because I think there was a discrepancy, and that's when cost sharing was introduced. We were quite happy with the fact that we knew we were going to pay. They didn't like it. So we were sent home. And when we got sent home with a pink slip, and that's when you get stamped by the chief. Do you guys still do that? No? When you get sent home, you just get sent home. Wait until I become president. But I would call and they would give me a job. They would give me a job. When I moved on from Kirinyaga Works, the next job I had was as a waitress. I worked for the Trattoria Group. Trattoria has a restaurant in town. Back in the day, 300 years ago, my age is showing, they had a Foresta in Corner House and Visions. I worked for Rufo Gaetano. There isn't a waiter in this country who doesn't give me great service. A lot of people go out with me and they wonder what's going on. I was, for about 4 months, their boss. And because you're in the industry, you get to know a lot of people. So I'd go in the morning, get out the specials menu, insert it in all the folders, make sure it's in all the menus. Then I'd walk across to Foresta, make sure that was done, walk back to Trattoria, make sure the lunchtime crowd was in. Hence the reason I can walk around in high heels until whenever, because it's something I did. And I spent the time on my feet. And you go up to people and say, hi, how are you? Is your order okay? I tell you, you do that all the time. And then would finish the lunchtime shift by about 2:30. I'd go home, take a nap, come back to do the coffee crowd. The coffee crowd is a crowd that comes straight out of the office, goes into Foresta to have cappuccino and Black Forest. That was a thing that was kicking back in the day. And I was there in my high heels. Hi, how you doing? How you doing? The coffee crowd used to dissipate by about 6:30, then dinner would start. And dinner is difficult because people who pay to go out for dinner have attitudes. The soup is wrong. We didn't ask for this chicken. Where is our fish? No. I learned patience. But let me tell you what else I learned being a waitress. I learned that I was not made for the service industry. I just don't have the patience. I don't have it. But that was the job I did. In 1994, our lecturers went on strike. We were out for 11 months. The only reason, almost a year. And the only reason we came back is that if you're ever out for a year, you lose that year. Yeah. We were out for 11 months because our lecturers were on strike. I worked for Lady Magazine. Once again, I was a glorified messenger. You know, these days, if you want to run a press ad, you just send a CD. Heck, you can actually email it. No, you go, you collect the color seps. Does anybody here know what a color sep is? Jockey other than you. Does anybody else know what a color sep is? I mean, you had to collect the color seps and collect the films, take them to pre-press. Pre-press were on Chiromo Road. Just where the flyover ends, that's where they used to be. Then I'd go there and make sure that the signature and the color on the ads is right. Because if it didn't come out right, Joy Motero would have my back. So that was my job, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now, here's a good thing about interning. Today, as group marketing manager, every press ad goes through me. And I'm the one person who can tell you immediately where everything should go. Title, heading, logos, balance. That was from interning. I didn't have to go to a school to understand how you lay out proper advertising. I had the chance to work for Lady Magazine. They also put me on the cover. I think they just didn't have somebody that month. No, now that I think about it, there was really nothing else, you know? And this is why you must intern. Don't waste your 20s. If you're doing any degree course right now that gives you a few hours free to yourself and you use it painting your nails, lying in your room, I don't know, strolling around town, you're a fool. You're a fool. There's so many people looking to give you something to do that by the time you graduate from here, you will hit the ground running. You already have corporate culture on your CV. Don't waste your time. But when you are in your 20s, all you have is time, you're fearless, you are able to learn and work things, and the best thing is 4, 5, 6 years later, you have hindsight nobody else has. Don't waste your time. Don't. By the time I graduated, I went straight to CBA. Let me tell you, that whole thing of making sure you dress for the job, my mother's not just Catholic, she's Catholic proper. You don't show up anywhere without stockings. So I remember asking to see Isaac Awando, and he said, can you be here at 7? And there's a thing about graduating where you think, if only I could have a little time off to myself. You're thinking 7? Anyway, you make it into town, Robero Street, you get in, and this man is having black tea without sugar. And he says, would you like some? What do you say? You say yes. And I hope you take it the way I do. Yes. As you cringe and swallow probably the most vile thing ever. And he says, I think you are what we're looking for, because we were looking for management trainees. He sent me off to preferred personnel who were doing the recruitment. And I remember Rose Mara looked at me and said, oh, you have a skirt and stockings. Oh, good. Then I'll see you tomorrow. Here is the thing. Learn also to understand where it is you're going. When you walk into a room, we don't know you. You present yourself. How you dress says something about you. And when you don't take yourself seriously, nor do we. There are people who show up, and stick their shades on their forehead and continue chewing the gum and saying, Carol. By the way, my name is Caroline, Miss Mutoko to you, especially if we're interviewing. The fact that I have this job between 6 and 10, where we hook up and we connect, when I'm trying to hire you, this is about your future, not mine. I got a job, thank you very much. You need to present yourself in the manner you want us to take you. Show up ready for whatever it is we're going to take you seriously for. I mean, Rose Mara was telling everybody else, and here are stockings, and here are stockings. Mrs. Mutoko had given me hers. Here, where the suit go. And that's how you get where you're going. I was a bank teller. I know I can never do that job. I'm a great bank customer because I already know that there's a word Kenyans have. You give them 10,000 shillings, they give you back 2,000 bob and say, Inipatia Rus. What is Rus, bwana? You want hundreds, 200s, 50s? Tell me what you want. I mean, I hated payday. I would be sitting on Wabera Street and I'd watch the line. I still don't carry money to this day. I think I've said this before. I can't stand the smell of money. When you've been a bank teller, it hangs in your nostrils all day, and money smells weird, and it comes from weird places, man. People come up to the teller window and they take it from here, from here, from here. You've never seen how guys shuttle 300,000 shillings. A million bob can arrive. Where it's going to come from? So I have absolute respect for people in the service industry, but it's not me. It's not me. I got into radio by accident. I always say the job chose me. I didn't choose it. I heard Phil Matthews one day doing test transmission. Radio stations used to do that. I wish a few of them would still do it, then they would not get it wrong. But he was doing a traffic update and saying, if you're on Uhuru Highway, turn back, it ain't worth it. And I was actually number 3, and I thought, that's actually really clever. So the next day, I called and I said, are you looking for people? Today, I realized, really, by the time a business is on air, they've actually recruited some. And I hung up and I went to the bathroom, and my mother knocks on the bathroom door and says, did you call somebody? Wamepiga. So I take the phone and say, hi, did you call? And it was Phil himself. And I said, yeah, I was just wondering whether you're looking for people. Says, oh, you sound okay. What are you doing tomorrow? Nothing. So I went in. I go in and I was given 2 scripts to read. Anne said this, and here I've got to tell you. Looking for a job in media. Oh, how do I say this nicely? We are so tired of hearing challenge and talented and droughts. It's a drought. Could you please practice within when you're without? Practice within when you're without. She said the way you do the strut and you wear the dress, the way all brides are told, wear your wedding dress, walk around in it so you're not weird on your wedding day. If you know you have a voice test at KISS 100, at KTN, wherever, could you please spend the evening before reading the Newsweek, the newspaper, to yourself out loud? The diction, pronunciation in my industry is atrocious. And the reason I'm upset is that there's 5-year-olds learning it. Because what you hear on media is sacrosanct. So when you have people reporting famines instead of a famine, when we have droughts instead of droughts, when Jelimo is talented and not talented, there's a 7-year-old listening. In 10 years, we will have people, CEOs, presidents, who can't go to the United Nations in Geneva and speak properly. You owe it to the public. If you want a job in this industry, woe betide you if I get the job as Minister for Information, you're all going back to school. You owe it to this country to raise the bar. Raise it. It's not acceptable that you're okay with okay. It's January, not January. Really. And practice within when you're without. I read a script That's how I got my first little weird job at Capital. I was given 2 scripts to read. Then they come in, they say, what are you doing tomorrow? Nothing. Said, could you come in? I said, yes. Let me tell you what I did in radio, my first job at Capital. I did the traffic updates for John Wilkins. I went in twice an hour for 30 seconds and I said, Uhuru Highway, Chiroma Road, da-da-da, da-da-da, free, flowing, busy, moving, jammed. That was my job, between 3 and 5. So when I meet people who don't want to start somewhere in this business or any business, I want to ask you, seriously? I did traffic updates. That's what I did. And back in the day, so strange that I'm working with the Standard Group, we actually shared the walkie-talkie system. So Capital was Charlie and KTN was Kilo. So their call sign is Kilo. They're Kilo Tango, actually. I was Charlie Mike, Caroline Mutoko. So it was always Charlie, Mike. And that's how we found out from the messengers and the different guys on the bikes what was happening around. Remember, there was no butterfly cameras, no mobile phones, no SMSs. So the messengers for the company and for KTN as well gave us the traffic updates. I went in and I filed it, literally. Chiroma Road is free-flowing, next traffic update in 30 minutes, out. But they gave me other things to do. I used to input music into the system. I don't know whether that's changed. I don't know if there's anybody else here from Capital. Capital had a database of 2,500 songs. Now, music is scheduled into a system and programmed by software. You've got to key in every song. You've got to do Black Velvet, fast to slow, rock, pop, beats per minute. And you've got to key in each and every one of those. And I've probably keyed in about 1,000 songs. So sometimes, I'm sitting in traffic and I'm listening to somebody on Capital and I want to call them and say, will you let the song end? This one does not fade, but because I knew. And it's very important that I put the codes into each and every song. That is what I did. I didn't wake up one day and just have a radio job. I was inputting music. Then I was allowed to do a travel and motoring segment on Tuesday and Thursday. Then a few years later, Linda Holt made a decision that it was important to darken the playlist at Capital. It was too white. And if you're going to darken the playlist, I guess you got to darken the presenters. So there was Phil, then Zane, then me, then Joe Tunis, then, And I got to play the darker music. I got to play People Bryson and Joe Ducey and, or as Linda called it, Joe Decky. But that's how I got my radio stint. I got my radio stint as a token black. You take what's handed to you and you make the best of it. The show was called The Jam. It's still called The Jam. One day I'll go and take it back and show them how it should be done. But that's what I did.
Did you know that coffee is the most popular hot drink across the globe? And there are actually 50 different species of coffee in the world. Thank you for joining us on this particular episode of KTN Midmorning. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you do have any comments, any questions, make sure you log on to Midmorning at standardmedia.co.ke. That's our email address. We are on Facebook. The name of the page is KTN Midmorning, and on Twitter as well, at KTN Midmorning. My name is Koi. I have been your host. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Let's meet tomorrow.